So when Fiona told me a few years back in I think 2020, that you are writing a book and also about what you're writing it, I resonated so much with it because I'm actually half Austrian, half Hong Kong, born and raised in a tiny village with 6,000 people in Austria as the only Chinese family, with the only fully Chinese mom. And I think that a lot of you can really resonate also and probably also sympathize with the things you have to hear when you grow up in a dominantly white place. And so that's why also when you were, talking about misfit and what it meant to be a misfit, I think that, who of you feels like or felt like a misfit when they were growing up or like in their career? Yeah, I think that everybody at one point did. And even though we sometimes don't view the other person as a misfit because we see them as at their success, because I also told you, I'm like, you're not a misfit to me. What was your answer then?
Well, I think it's because the way you know me is probably like very different. A lot of the adversities that I had to go through where I felt as a misfit, especially when I grew up as a teenager. And as a teenager, it's already like so challenging to identify your real identity, right? And then on top of that, you just don't feel like you blend in. You always stick out like a sore thumb. So that's how I felt as a misfit. And even in my corporate career, I also felt like I was so different. We're from Shell, and Shell is a very, very male-dominated environment. Typically in the room, in the meetings, I'm the only female. I'm always the youngest, and typically also the only ethnic minority. So I think like we all kind of resonate in once in our lives, probably like where we don't really fit in, where we feel like we don't belong. And I wanted to write this book to really help every one of you to feel empowered that even though you feel like a misfit, you can actually also use that to your advantage.
It totally resonated also with me. I once had a job interview when I was 19, and obviously they asked like, oh, tell me about your strengths, and I'm like, oh, I'm a hard worker, because everybody says that. And then she's like, oh, is it because your mom is Chinese? And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I got the job.
Are you really good at math, right?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, if it gets me the job, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's because she's Chinese, yeah. We're also really tidy and everything, But so it's really turning those into advantages and just be like, whatever, if it gets me forward. Yeah,
exactly. And I think we spoke about that as well. Like sometimes I feel I only got the job, even as an entrepreneur, I only got the project because I look different, I look younger, I'm probably like the only female. But then you actually helped me and encouraged me to also say like, that's a great door opener, right? Like why not leverage on that? Why not really utilize that and use that as your advantage?
So you briefly mentioned a few things that inspired you already to write the book. What other things inspired you to write this?
I think it was always like one of my biggest life dreams to kind of like write a book, but I've never thought about, what is the topic? Like what would interest others to read about? And it was a really big kind of decision to also share my personal story. So all of you here who bought my book, you will actually see quite a few like my deepest, darkest secrets of my life. And it's something that I felt like showing that vulnerability also helped me to get outside of my comfort zone in order to learn more about myself.